Welcome to All Things Social Security. My name is Stephanie Joy of Joy Disability. I am a Social Security disability attorney, and I would like to invite you to watch our daily video tips on the Social Security disability and SSI claims process each day at the new time of noon Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube on this channel. And on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our live Q&A live stream. So you are welcome to join that as well. Ask your questions, get there on time, and you'll be one of the first answered. Thanks so much and have a great day. Enjoy the video. Quinn, I appreciate. Okay, so I know my part, thank you, Quinn, is relatively short compared to your part as we go through this bill. So just a real quick synopsis from the Social Security point of view. The bill that was passed on July 3rd by Congress was not a Social Security related bill per se. And there are reasons for that, which I'll get into in about 2 minutes. But what happened in the end is seniors over 65, Social Security irrelevant, whether you have it or not, are given an additional deduction on top of the standard deduction that we all enjoy at all ages, as well as the extra deduction seniors already get on top of that. They get a little bonus on top of that, and it was actually expanded. And now they get the new one on top of that, and that's the $6,000 deduction we're all talking about. So everyone was expecting, and for those of us that don't follow legislative processes, and I don't, generally speaking, it's not my thing. My thing is Social Security. So people were expecting, because the executive, the president had part of his agenda is trying to get Social Security benefits untaxed for recipients. And for reasons I'm about to mention, that wasn't possible in this bill. That wasn't what this bill was about. Media, of course, led us all to believe it was. Now we know why it wasn't. So the lowdown on the deduction is, if you are 65 or older, and if you make $75,000 or less, you get a $6,000 deduction added to the otherwise already enhanced deductions that you already have, including the one from 2017, which doubled the standard deduction we'd had for forever. So it's a pretty significant addition. I would say, well, I'm not going to go into percentages, but is it like a 25% boost or a 30% boost, something? And if as you go up in income from 75 all the way up to, and this is about for a single person, up to $175,000, people over 75 will still get some sort of deduction, but it's not going to be as big as the people 75 and under. So that tells us that this is a law designed to benefit and only benefit middle to lower income tax-paying people. Not all middle to lower income people. If you don't pay taxes, you're not going to get a tax rebate. So why was it that there was no Social Security specific provision, and it's 65 and older? And I can say I've gotten this question a lot, Quinn, because my client base is 99% disabled folks under 65. So yeah, we were all kind of hoping that maybe they'd have a tax break or something, but not the case, not from that anyway. And it turns out, like I alluded to before, two kinds of legislative processes. The one we're used to, the one that's actually really generally, well, it's a little dysfunctional now, but it's a thoughtful, deliberative process with a lot of debates, public input, all that to get a law to be passed. Then there is this alternative method of trying to pass a law that's easier and faster. Easier for the proponents, of course. And that is the reconciliation process. The original, the one that we use most of the time, is the regular order legislative process. So the reconciliation process, the reason why it's easier is instead of having a 60 vote in the Senate, they can go with a simple majority. That's really significant. Things go much faster. There are other limitations to it, though. As a result of this facilitated way of passing a bill with less votes, there are constraints on that. It cannot ever, and this is expressly a rule, it cannot be a Social Security related rule. And that is the main reason why the Social Security workings that perhaps the president would like for all the Social Security beneficiaries wasn't going to happen in this bill because it violates that rule. So there was going to be no Social Security. That's why it had to be a certain age, and they couldn't make, if they were going to try to cover, think about it, disabled people generally, they would have to bring that age down to, say, 18, or let's say you were saying, well, just disabled people 40 and over, 40 and up. They couldn't make it just disabled people on Social Security. They would have to make it everybody. And then we'd really have no federal income tax revenues. So it would be pretty insane. The understanding is, and we've all just kind of gotten to this point since we don't study this on a day-to-day basis, but we've been racking our eyeballs with it for the last week. Yeah, about the last week, maybe a little less. Other bills can be presented, and I believe there's some up there right now. Whether they will pass or not is a whole nother thing, because there's large factions that do not want to see any kind of reduction in taxes. They just don't. And I will say this, and this I was not aware of, Quinn, and all of you. I wasn't aware of this, and neither were probably 99% of my colleagues. And NOSCR, which is, for those of us that do Social Security work, is one of the two major organizations that really work on behalf of the representatives and the claimants, kind of as a unified group. They're really helpful. So I email them when I have questions. So my question was, when I saw a little narrative report come out, as I'm a sustaining member of that organization, there was a comment that if you eliminate taxes on Social Security beneficiaries, it will take about 4% of the income that goes into the Social Security trust funds, not the regular general, that'll be gone. And we were like, well, wait a minute. We thought, as we've been taught, Social Security trust funds are funded majorly, like 80 something percent, high 80s actually, by payroll taxes. Now, payroll taxes are not federal income taxes, right? We have federal income taxation, and we have Social Security taxes, which is the payroll tax. It's generally Social Security combined with the few percentages added for Medicare. So if it's all funded by, this is why we say a very strong and robust and encouraged workforce is imperative to sustaining the Social Security trust funds. So the question to NOSCR was, and this was just the other day, I emailed them, I said, well, if the trust funds are funded by Social Security tax, and that's not being changed at all, those Social Security beneficiaries, when they receive Social Security benefits, are not being taxed by the Social Security tax because it's not work earnings, it's insurance proceeds. Then how could that be? And it took a little longer than usual to get a response, but not long. And I will tell you, I kudos to them. I'm not trying to toot anybody's horn, but they always respond to me. It wasn't Jennifer that typically does. It was another person. I think it was Roseanne, maybe. And fantastic. She said, no, actually, blah, blah, blah. She said, no, what happens is the federal income tax that is applied on Social Security benefits gets credited back when it's on Social Security benefits, not the rest of the federal income tax on everybody else in the country. Federal income tax charged on Social Security beneficiaries for their benefits gets credited back to the Social Security funds. It's a provision since 1983. I was like, oh, well, that's really interesting. Now, this is not to say I don't want to see taxation on Social Security benefits ultimately disappear. I'd like to see us be able to sustain those funds in the healthy, normal manner that they should be, which is by payroll and a healthy workforce. That is my mantra. And the investments, the other parts of the growth of the funds is what they do with the funds when they're sitting there. They don't just sit there and depreciate like they would in like a 0.025% savings account, because it's a trust fund, with making them create more income for the fund. So they have to be invested properly, safely, etc. In the end, the tax is still there on some Social Security beneficiaries, particularly the more wealthy ones. But with the bill passing that for 65 and above anyway, they will have an extra $6,000 added to their standard deduction and their otherwise little senior deduction that was already existing. And the battle will be, I suppose, we were saying, why would they want to prevent federal income tax on Social Security benefits by arguing that it's going to hurt the funds? Well, apparently it will affect the funds. Allegedly, it's a 4% effect. I haven't run those numbers. This is just what was reported. But that's not insignificant in a time when we're always worried about the funds. So somehow that's going to have to be worked about. Clearly, they haven't been able to yet in all these many, many years when the funds have been kind of weighted down and of concern and all that. So I don't know what the end result will be. But I did want to share that because we all were under the impression that it was payroll tax and only payroll tax. But the fact that they do this little workaround with the federal income tax from Social Security beneficiaries, then the part on their Social Security benefits being siphoned back to the funds. Okay, I'd admit they do have some standing with that argument. We could still argue that, so what? Earn it in a different way, get more workers out there, encourage job growth, not sitting in mom's basement. We could argue all that, but they do have a legitimate point. Anywho, that is the lowdown on the new bill and how it helps seniors specifically, not Social Security beneficiaries particularly at all. And that's because under law, it's not allowed to do that. That's going to have to come under a separate law. And just to sum it up, $75,000 or less, you get the full $6,000. Between $75,000 for a single person and $175,000, it starts to phase out and it's gone by the time you establish that you are a earner or an income recipient of $175,000. And it's MAGI. So it's where on your modified adjusted gross income. For married couples, I believe that is $150,000 and $250,000. $150,000, $250,000. So a couple with $150,000 will get the full $6,000, and then it'll start to dissipate as the income goes higher than that. And it doesn't matter if you itemize or use standard deduction. You can use it both ways on top, stacked. That's good. Thanks, Quinn. If there's anything more about that you need me to dig into, I'm happy to do it. And again, for everyone who doesn't know me, I am Stephanie Joy. I am a Social Security disability attorney with the practice of Joy Disability. I also have a YouTube channel called All Things Social Security. It's relatively new the last few years. I think it popped up after we settled into COVID and things were a little strained. And it's a fun place, a friendly crowd. And we have live streams every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to answer your Social Security questions. It's a first come, first served basis. And at noon every day, Eastern Standard Time, a video share, whether it's a tip, a piece of Social Security news, or whatever's going on currently in the general time frame, we share them at that time. And we do also have playlists, like all the different questions on the function report, things to think about, things to avoid, etc. Same with the work history report, and just a plethora of stuff. I think there's 1,000 videos now, Quinn, and I'm still waiting for you to join me on one of them. So give it some thought, pal. All right, guys, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Bye-bye.